and it's a great pleasure to follow the member for North East Bedfordshire. And it just reminded me that I think the Foreign Office is a worse place for him not being. I want to pick up a few strands which have been developing. One was the member for Gravesham talked about how the bad and the good are trying to get rid of the ugly. But he left unanswered the question, what do we do if they ask for the help of the outside to get rid of the ugly? And he didn't answer what we do in that position. So whether we like it that this is seen as US-led or not, a democratically elected state is asking for our help, and I think we are duty-bound to give that help.
Well, just on that point, before he moves on, I always listen with rapt attention to her views on international affairs. But as someone who sat here, listened to all the speeches, could she guide me on how we get out of this once we're in? What is the long-term game?
Very fair point, which I shall try to address, because it takes me to something the Prime Minister and our front bench have said in opening speeches. First of all, I'm really glad that this time we're having a clear outlined strategy, which we didn't have a year ago, and I think that's why I feel comfortable to vote for the debate. But he also reminded of something of what Ban Ki-moon said, that whilst missiles kill terrorists, it's good governance which kills terrorism. And the long-term answer will be the good governance of functioning nation-states. And therefore, we have those nation-states which are currently functioning in the region, which are your Jordans, your Turkey and your Iran, do not fall apart or don't get compromised. And those who are at the risk of fragmenting, which is Iraq, which to some extent could be Jordan if we are not careful, actually that this isn't allowed to happen because it's not in our interest. And it would seem to be that the fact that Frederick the Great said he can't ride on horseback against ideas. So this isn't a newly discovered wisdom that you don't fight ideas as such with arms. It's just something which you seem to be forgetting in regular intervals, and every generation seems to be needed to be reminded of this again. But why does it require military action now? I think it does it now as a starting point, because there's a myth developing that ISIS is undefeatable, that it will simply spread, that it cannot be contained. And the first step has been to show that it can be contained. So those who want to fight it, that they will get support. Certainly.
I think the Honourable Lady took it away, and the very point that she's making is very, very valid at this moment in time. Already the air attacks by the United States government and other forces have shown some dividends in that ISIS have slowed down their advance. Surely if we join the campaign at this moment in time, we will help that to happen. We will enable with the armies on the ground and then bring the Christians and the ethnic groups back into the areas where they want to stay and want to live.
Yes, indeed, and the armies on the ground will not be our armies. That's also very important, because we have to enable those nation-states to function properly and those armies to function properly, because the solution of this, which essentially is a fallout of the post-Ottoman settlement, will only be found within the region, but we have a responsibility within that region, and whether we like it or not, we are no longer the great power that can actually underwrite any of those settlements or actually bring about those changes. We have to do it with others. And whilst we were debating today, I just saw on the news that Denmark is now supporting sending in 7 F-16s. So the coalition of support is widening in order to enable. And that also takes me then to that question the member for Wolverhampton South East raised, where he said, why are we not talking about Syria? Well, the reason why I think this debate is so narrowly framed comes from the lessons I hope we've learned from last year, where if you come to this House and you can't explain yourself in a way which takes the House with it, you have to be by far more cautious in future steps. We will return to this subject. This is not a given, but at this stage, I think we can bring the parties together, we can be part of an international coalition. And can I also just say to the House, it is incredibly foolish to think that just because we are not going into Syria, there isn't something's going to happen in Syria. That we are the only actor that will bring about the change. But the fundamental lesson of today for this House has to be, it is the functioning nation states in that region which will be enabled to deal with the terrorism, that will have to deal with the terrorists. And we have to aid and assist and take the lead from them. And this then, of course, does also require that you Saudi Arabias, that you Qatars, you Bahrain, and Iran have to take on responsible positions. And I really hope that in the wind-up we hear just a little bit more about Turkey and the effect in Kurdistan, certainly.
Well, to my honourable friend on this, there is a real problem, and that is who is going to have the strength and the determination tomorrow, next year, the year after that, to be on the ground, whose boots will be on the ground in Iraq. Because so far nobody has said who. Nobody has said who will do it today, tomorrow or the year after.
In fairness to the Prime Minister and to the Leader of the Opposition, I think they did say that that would have to be within the establishing of a functioning Iraqi army. And we know that airstrikes on their own aren't sufficient. We've learned that in Libya. You know, just going in and getting rid of the head of state is not the answer. That is simply the beginning of an answer. I think there's a clear strategy, and this is why it's important for this House not to lose the determination and the will to pursue and enable. And as I was saying about Turkey, I hope the front bench will come back, say a bit more about Turkey, say a bit more about what it means to arm the Kurds and what effect that may have on a Turkish government. And also, finally, what thoughts there are in terms of a UN resolution. Those who say, because it's unlikely to get another UN resolution, should be reminded that you should nevertheless try your damnedest to get one, because it's only after that that you have a moral authority to consider different options.
Sir Alan